Alright, so let's get started with exercise 02. The first thing you're going to want to do is open Schoology and find your correct course. We're going to open this one. On the materials page, you'll find a link that says submit your assignments here. Open that, and it should open the correct page for your period. I'm going to go ahead and add in exercise 1 and exercise 2's folders, and this is where you will submit and also where you will find all of the files that you need to download for any exercises. For exercise 2, I'm going to be creating another folder which is going to be called Downloads, and you will download anything that I put in this folder in order to finish this exercise. In this case, we only have a single file that you will need to download, and it looks like this. It's a simple 2-bounce arc drawn by famous animator Preston Blair. Once you have this downloaded, you're going to go back to Adobe Animate, go to Create New, and you're going to create a new document using the HD preset and making sure that your frame rate is at 12 frames per second. Hit Create. We're going to go up here, hit Fit in Window in order to see our whole stage at one time. When you're working in Animate, unlike working in Photoshop, you have a stage. And when you work on the stage, you can draw things off of the stage and they will stay there. We want to put our image onto our stage, so go to File, Import, and Import to Stage. You're going to find the image wherever you saved it, double-click it, and open it. The next thing you're going to need to do is resize the image. We're going to use the free transform tool, or you can press Q on your keyboard. Holding the Shift key, hover over one of the 4 edges and resize your image until half of 17 and half of 1 are about halfway off. Use the button next to your zoom in called Clip Counted Outside the Stage to make sure that the balls are in the correct place. Once you have done this, you're going to select Layer _1, right-click, and go to Properties. Then you are going to change the name to Reference. You are going to change the visibility to 50, and you're going to change the type to Guide. Once you have done that, you will find that your image is lighter, and when we preview our animation, we can't see the image. That is what we want. The last thing you're going to do is click frame 1, then click over to frame 18, and select the Auto Insert keyframe. Now you should have 18 frames that are identical of the image not moving. Once you have done this, our guide layer is complete and we can lock the layer. You can also lock the layer by going back to Properties and selecting Lock. Now we have our guide layer set up. We can begin the first part of our exercise. Go ahead and click the Create New Layer button, right-click this layer, select Properties, and rename the layer Ball 1. Do not lock this layer as we will be working on it. Anytime you need to see more of your layers, you can always resize by hovering over the edge of this window. If you would like to set up your timeline the way that I've set mine up, you can switch it from standard to preview, and it will give you a preview of what's on each frame. You can also make the frames smaller by using short or bigger by using tall. I'm going to leave mine at medium. If you would like to see more of your frames at one time, you can use this slider. The closer you get to the left-hand side, the more of your frames you can see and the smaller the frames appear. And the closer you get to the right-hand side, where the mountains are, the fewer frames you can see. All right. For ball 1, we're going to be doing the same thing that we did in exercise 0-1, where we use the ellipse tool to create a ball. Use the auto insert keyframe tool to duplicate that keyframe on a new keyframe. And we are going to move our ball along, following the guide. I'm not going to worry about squashing and stretching it right now. We just want the ball to follow the guide. You will have a total of 17 frames, and one frame 18, which will be empty. Be sure you follow the guide as closely as you can without doing the squash and stretch. Now I can preview and see that my ball bounces about where it needs to be without being able to see the guide. I can also preview it here or play it using the play button. It looks a little wonky, so let's go ahead and add our squash and stretch. Go back to the appropriate frames where you need to add squash and stretch, and use the free transform tool. You can move this anchor point here, this white dot that starts in the middle, to the bottom in order to make your squashing and stretching a little bit easier. Now, every time I move this, it will move from the anchor point, which is at the bottom, instead of in the middle. As you change each frame, it does not affect the frames around it, so you will need to go in and edit each frame individually. You may need to use a little trial and error for this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Make sure you are following the guide as closely as you can. Now we can see the squash and stretch on my first bounce is a lot better than the one on my second bounce. We'll test the movie up here. This looks a lot more realistic, a lot better. So we're going to continue doing that. Moving it so on and so on until it matches with all of my guide images. Now I see here I've made a small mistake. I thought this was frame 14, but it's actually frame 13. And as you can see, each of these numbers matches up. That's fine. We'll just move this down to where it belongs at frame 13. Squash and stretch it into the right spot. Find our frame 14 and move it to where it belongs. Squash and stretch it into the right spot. And then continue. 15. 16. 17. And 18 should be empty. So we're just going to hit the delete key to delete that. Now, I should have a nice bouncy ball, and when it loops, it should look like it's bouncing forever. And that is the first part of exercise 1. If you would like to take this opportunity to go back, check over what you did, you can. There will be 2 more parts to exercise 2.